All right, let's call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. We're going to start with the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine Law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of March 24th, 2025 is available by calling phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it's time for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in the schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2025-13 and sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on January 7th, 2025, posted on the Borough website, the Bolton Board Municipal Building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Paul.
Yes.
DiMaselli. Hoey.
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Barbera.
Present.
Olson. Administrator York, Attorney Stovall, Engineer Gardella are in.
Thank you. Before we get to the Fairhaven natural area, I'm making a slight exception. I'm doing one good of the borough before the rest of the meeting starts tonight, because we have a young man that has to get to bed. And his name is Connor. Connor, can you come join me up here real quick? So Connor, back in May of 2024, you dropped a letter in my mailbox. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Does that look like the letter? Yeah, right? So it says Connor, he wants to make a holiday called Friend Appreciation Day for all of Fairhaven on March 29th, right? Which I thought was pretty cool. So I sent it at the time to Allison, and to be clear, I might have forgotten about it a little bit, but Allison never forgets, right? So Allison reminded me, and I have a letter here from me to you. And it says, Dear Connor, thank you so much for reaching out to me in May 2024 with the amazing idea to have a Friend Appreciation Day for all of Fairhaven. This Saturday, March 29th, I will be asking everyone to join me in celebrating the spirit and connectivity of friendship. This is the type of idea that brings people together, and that is something that the world needs a lot of right now. You have an extremely bright future, and I appreciate you bringing such a great idea to my attention. I encourage you to continue to advocate for ideas that will make Fairhaven a better place to call home. It is very much appreciated. Your friend, Mayor Josh Halpern. Okay? I want you to hold on to these two things, and I have one more thing for you. Okay? If many of you have noticed, for like the last, I'm guessing, 2 years in town, we've had some artwork that has maybe gone past its useful life at this point, and we're going to be replacing very soon. But one of them said friendship on it, so the whole governing body signed it for you, and you get to take that home.
Nothing has working.
All right. Moving along, Carolyn Ferguson is here. She's the chair of the Fairhaven Fields Natural Area Advisory Committee. She has the annual report, and I believe we have it on, do we have it on PowerPoint as well?
Great, thank you, Mayor. Before we get started, I'm going to give a little update about our membership. When the Natural Area Committee was formed in 1987, one of the original members was Doris Moraller. She's been a member of the committee ever since then, most recently as one of our lifetime members. Doris passed away on March 11th of this year at the age of 89. and I'd like to share just a few words about her accomplishments. Doris served the community of Fairhaven as a member of the Natural Area Committee for 38 years, from the day the committee was formed till the day she died. Doris served on the Natural Area Committee alongside her husband, Richard, who passed away in 2002. Doris and her husband are especially associated with the Meadow Zone in the northeast section of the natural area. They both did a long list of good deeds in the natural area for many years, but one example of their work is that during the year 2001, the Morellers cataloged all the plant species that they found present in the meadow, and they identified 141 plant species growing there. It was an important demonstration that wide diversity can be maintained in a relatively small area. The same year, the borough recognized their active stewardship of the meadow habitat and their devotion to the natural area by giving the meadow zone the name Morellers Meadow, which is shared on a sign in that area. Our committee has always held Doris in the highest regard. We'd like our family to know that we thank her for her years of devotion to the natural area and for her hard work to make the natural area a beautiful place.
Carolyn, before you continue, just two quick things. Did you say she passed on March 11th?
Yeah.
Our last meeting was March 10th?
Yeah.
And I believe that the students at Knollwood School during their presentation had a part about Morellers Meadow in the
Oh, yeah, they did,
presentation that
yes.
had us ask,
Oh, what is that?
yeah, so that's,
Perfect.
you know, her legacy continues to live on even through the youth. Just one housekeeping tip for us up here, since we have a lot of presentations tonight, let's let the entire presentation finish and then we'll ask our questions after. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm here today to present the 2024 year in review for the Natural Area Committee. I'm gonna skip a couple things, just in the interest of time. Our 2024 committee members were me, Jen Spitz, Paul Ferguson, Ray Bordelon, Allison Countryman, Mark Olson, Meg Christner Keefe, Bonnie Torsivia, Linda Gettle, and we do have volunteers who also attend our meetings. We have our lifetime members, Dick Fuller and Audrey Engel, and I just updated you about Doris Moraller. During 2024, our Borough Council liaison was Brian Olson, and we continue to have our partnership with the Fairhaven DPW. We always appreciate the work they do and their collaboration. We always like to point out that every time the Monmouth County Park System is here, they compliment the members of the DPW on their extensive knowledge of the plants and the ecology of the natural area. So kudos to them. Moving on to the history of Fairhaven Fields. I'm not going to go through it, but you have it in your document. I think the important thing is on the map there to notice that when Fairhaven Fields was acquired, it was a 77-acre parcel. 40 acres became the natural area on the right, and 37 acres became the other elements of Fairhaven Fields, the community center, the sports fields, the 3rd Street Trail, and the brush grinding area. A little general information about the Fairhaven Fields natural area. The benefits that it brings to the borough. It offers passive recreation for walkers, runners, dog walkers, those who like to sit and enjoy nature. It's a home for insects, animals, plant life, and trees that play an essential role in our borough's environment. It's a natural source of cooling and a warming environment, and it's a place where all of our residents can learn more about nature if they choose to. We have a philosophy that we use in our work in the natural area. Our guidance is really just to keep it natural. It's not a place where we put tons of signs, lots of equipment, fancy rows of landscaping. We want it to be a natural area that is somewhat as self-sustaining as it can be. And then also we do work with support from Monmouth County Park System. I think it's one of the notable accomplishments of this committee in the last few years that they have formed a good relationship with Monmouth County Park System and really brought them into the picture. They visit our natural area 1 to 2 times a year. They give us written reports. The expertise they provide costs us nothing. So it's really been a very helpful relationship. So moving on to our 2024 goals and our accomplishments. Last year, we set 5 goals for ourselves, and we believe that we accomplished all of them this year. Our first goal was to continue to restore the northwest section of the natural area. As you know, that area was once filled with downed wood, thorny invasives. It was unsafe to go in there. It couldn't be used or enjoyed by residents. During 2023, we made a big investment and had that area cleared. And during 2024, we continued the work on that area. We arranged for herbicide treatments to prevent regrowth of invasives, and we had the area seeded with native grasses. We also hired Fernbrook Nursery to plant 19 trees and shrubs in that area. So our work continued, and we expect to continue that work going forward. Our second goal was to celebrate 50 years of Fairhaven Fields. We thought this was significant to making sure that residents understood what a gift this area was to us. Our committee participated in Love Where You Live Day. We had posters that offered the history of the Fairhaven Fields area. And then at Fairhaven Day, our Borough Council Liaison, Brian Olson, and the mayor worked together to have a proclamation that told the crowd there about the history of Fairhaven Fields and the 50th anniversary. Our third goal was to honor distinguished committee member Jim Engel. Jim Engel was the first chair of the Fairhaven Fields Natural Area Committee and served on it from when it was founded in 1987 until he died in 2021. In his honor, we've installed a bench with a plaque to honor him. We want to thank, I don't know, Jim Ravis is here. We have a volunteer that works with us named Jim Ravis, who's very talented and skilled. And Jim built a rustic bench using a slab of wood that was donated. And we have a plaque next to that bench now, and I'll show you a picture of it in a second. This was something we've been talking about for a few years, so we were glad to get it checked off the list finally. Our fourth goal for 2024 was to improve the committee's collaboration with the borough. We were, we want our committee members want to feel like they're accomplishing good work and accomplishing work that is what is desired. So we were looking to improve our connection of it with the borough, and we feel like collaboration has improved during 2024. And we can offer three examples. We feel like we have very strong representation by our Borough Council Liaison in 2024, and that helped getting information back and forth. Also, we've begun establishing a tighter collaboration with the Environmental Commission, and we believe that has also helped. And we continue our partnership with the DPW. We meet with them for monthly maintenance walks, and they participate with us in volunteer weekends. And we find the time that we spend together very valuable, that we often will have a conversation and the two ideas on both sides come together into a better idea that we worked out together. So we are looking forward to continuing that. Our last goal was to begin tackling invasives in the north section. So the north section had never really had any maintenance done. So we used it at both of our 2024 volunteer weekends. We worked in that area. Also, the borough had Frontier come in, a tree service. There was a bunch of leaning trees that were all intertangled with each other that really have to be managed carefully. They had Frontier take those down, and that opened up access so our volunteers could get into that area and see it, some of it for the first time. So there has been good work done in 2024 in the north section. So we feel like we achieved our 5 goals that we set for ourselves, but we do believe we accomplished even a little more. We planted 25 bare root trees and shrubs throughout the natural area. We hired Fernbrook Nursery to plant 10 shrubs near the Fairhaven Road entrance. We held 2 volunteer weekends and approximately 200 people volunteered. Our committee's members donated about 800 hours of work in 2024. And the same volunteer, Jim Ravis, the kiosk in the Ridge Road parking lot, the roof part of it had gone into disrepair. Water was leaking through and getting into the materials in the kiosk. But our volunteer, Jim Ravis, very talented, took on the project and replaced the roof. He even redesigned it a little so it was bigger and more effective. This actually took an item off the DPW's work list, so that was a win-win for all of us. And then if we go, this is now what our little memorial for Jim Engel looks like. As you can see, we have a rustic bench and a small plaque. It's about 8 inches square. This is on the north side. If you walk on the perimeter trail, you can stop and have a seat, and think about all the good work Jim Engel did for the natural area. This is the first time we've ever had a slide for funding in our presentation, and we kind of realized after last year that that's kind of an important topic that wasn't part of our annual report. So the information in here is very kind of loose, but we felt like it was important to have a slide and maybe start the conversation or have a starting point to have even better information next year. You can see that it's like the average cost for maintaining a suburban forest in the state of New Jersey are somewhere between 1,500 and 3,000 per acre. So we could expect to spend maybe 60 to 120K a year just to maintain the natural area. What I'm sharing here is what we know of the money that was spent this year. So the first thing was that there was herbicide treatments and seeding in the Northwest. That was cost $5,000, and that was paid for by the borough out of maintenance money. You know that we get donations from the community appeal for the natural area. We get about $5,000 a year in donations. So this year we planted 29 trees and shrubs with deer fencing, which cost $5,000. And that was paid for by the donations to the community appeal. So really paid for by the residents. Then also, of course, the borough contributes DPW hours and vendor services like Frontier to maintain the natural area. And we don't know what that costs, but maybe it's something we will. And then we spent money on the plaque for Jim Engel and the wood slab for the bench. It was $500, and that was paid for by a direct donation to our group. Then moving on to our goals for 2025. We have 3 goals this year. One is to increase the evergreen buffers in the natural area. When people are in the natural area, we would very much like for them to not be seeing cars, be hearing traffic going by. So we are eager to try to beef up the evergreen borders along the roads so that the natural area can be protected, quiet, natural. And then also, we have the border with the church on the northwest corner. And we have done some talking and strategizing, thinking about the future. You know, we're aware that the church has the affordable housing overlay on it. So we've said, you know, we have to imagine that at some point that church could be multi-unit housing adjacent to the natural area. So with that in mind, as of something that could happen, we're starting to work on trying to plant evergreens along that border. Thinking that if that happened in 10 years or something, we would already have a start on some trees that had gotten some size to them. So that's something we're going to continue working on too. But we think that is a good effort that we should make. To continue doing this beefing up of the evergreen buffers, we are going to need more funding than we have now. I'll talk a little about that on another slide. Our second goal is to increase resident awareness of the value of the natural area. We're looking forward to collaborating with other committees to offer educational and recreational opportunities in the natural area and to help it, you know, make it clear to residents the benefits that they're getting from that space. And then our third goal is to plan reclamation of the northeast section. So we've been working in the northwest corner. We did some work this year in the north, and now we're kind of turning our sights to the northeast section. During this year, we just want to begin a plan to do a little evaluation and see what might be necessary in that area. So that's what's going to happen for that goal. As usual, we come with a few requests for the Borough Council. Our first is about working together to activate the volunteer workforce. We think that in this current budget climate that it would be good for us to acknowledge that we really need to use volunteers to do some of the maintenance, that would be a practical approach to getting work done there. As I've mentioned, we have a lot of willing and talented volunteers with a variety of skills. We would like to kind of work together on this because we feel like if we can collaborate and ensure that DPW work marries up with volunteer work in such a way that we can get maximum results. So instead of us kind of each doing our own thing, we'd like to work together to get the maximum results that we can get. And I'll just share two quick examples. One is that like as trees have fallen recently and need to be removed, we wind up with these 8-foot logs along the side of the trails. And that's really not what, we don't want that. But also our volunteers can't manage 8-foot logs. If the DPW could give it, or the borough could give a little something and get those logs cut in 18-inch lengths, we could give a little something and get volunteers to remove those logs. And we would arrange for residents to come pick them up for free firewood, which we have a lot of luck with whenever we do that. So we feel like that's one example of if we can each do a little bit, that together we'll have the desired result. Another good example, I think, is the kiosk. It was on the DPW work list. We found somebody else who could do it. It got done. It came off the DPW work list. So just, thinking about work to be done and trying to find volunteers who can do it so that we can free up the DPW to do the work that of course they can only do. So we look forward to that, if you guys are up for that. Our second request is that we feel like we need to either maintain or increase the funding for maintaining the natural area. So we are requesting the borough to pursue options like grants, open space tax, budget allocations, what other options there might be to fund, especially planting of evergreen trees in the buffer. The DPW task hours, we're just asking to continue that having the DPW participate in our committee meetings and also at our volunteer weekends. Especially at the volunteer weekends, it is so, well, I'll say both. When they're at the meetings, we've really come up with good solutions to problems together. And at the volunteer weekends, it makes an enormous difference when they're there, like chainsawing logs and stuff. They'll like open up access into an area and then we send 30 volunteers in there. So having their help, also they drive our equipment in and out so we can work deeper in the middle of the area. So having their help there really enables the volunteers to be very productive. And then we have two carryover requests, which will be familiar to you. One is the deer management issue to control ongoing destruction in the natural area. We know the borough has been working on that and we appreciate that. The other one is to control stormwater flowing down Buttonwood Drive and causing erosion in the natural area. We know that the borough has plans to work in that area. And I know that they're hopeful that that's going to address that problem too. We're just keeping it on the list till it's closed down. And that brings me to the end. I want to say thank you to the Natural Area Committee. As you know, they plan and execute projects. But in addition to that, you can find them in the natural area any given day doing physical work. Their level of concern and care for the natural area is very high. Thank you to the Borough Council for considering our report. We look forward to working in partnership with the borough to preserve the natural area so that it remains an ecological and recreational asset for the town. And then one last thing is that our next volunteer weekend is April 26th and 27th. And we would love to see everybody come out. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you, Carolyn. We can blast that date out, I'm
Yep.
assuming.
Always.
I'd like to thank Carolyn and the entire committee, obviously. We really appreciate all the efforts that you've made. I go walking in there all the time. It's, based on obviously some of the limitations we have, you guys have just done a first-class job in maximizing every resource you have. So speaking on behalf of the governing body and the entire community, big thank you to everyone.
No, you, just so everybody's tracking, Fairhaven Road, right, the new street and curbing and all that. Rich, we took into account when we did the designs, right, to solve the water issue from Buttonwood. And our pre-con or our kickoff is in a couple months when the work will start.
Project was awarded, we haven't had a pre-construction meeting.
Okay. Great. So, yeah, so it's.
Excellent.
Just one thing, Morales Motto and the 100 and some number of species of plants.
141.
141. That's a beautiful piece of work, someone did for Fairhaven. Has that information been shared with the Environmental Commission for the ERI? The catalogs of,
I don't
with
know.
specificity, that kind of information added depth to the
Yeah.
ERI.
We can go look and see if we have it. We do have all our files in the Google Drive. And we do have a lot of historical stuff. That was in 2001, so I don't know if we have it, but I'll look.
Okay, okay, thank you. Nice job.
Just a quick, for volunteer weekend, I'd love to send it to the Knollwood students, because they all expressed interest in getting involved in some sort of cleanup, so
Excellent.
I'll take that on.
Thank you.
Just curious, I know we did a lot of, herbicide treatments, like we said, in 2023. Have we seen the results of that yet, or is it too soon?
Well, in 2023, we had the area cleared,
Okay,
and then in 2024, we had herbicide treatments. I
okay,
think we're hoping to see the results this year.
okay,
So the idea was that, just to make sure that the invasives don't come back.
right,
We do see that the area is really clear right now,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
so far so good.
My last thought, sorry, is that, Rumson just took down a bunch of trees at Meadow Ridge. I just
Yeah.
wonder if there's an opportunity to partner with them on some sort of combine, or whatever you wanna call it. So I imagine they're gonna be doing a lot of the same.
Yeah, I can talk to Tom Rogers and see if Russ is interested in that. I'm not sure exactly what their full plan is gonna be. But
Be a parking lot.
It's super, I know, but they took down a lot of trees and have to replant some of them somewhere. Well,
Yeah.
they're likely gonna receive pressure.
Yeah, but I can certainly reach out to him.
More towards Chris, I love the idea of the firewood. So whatever we can do to facilitate that, I mean, it helps them, it provides a service to our residents, I don't know whether firewood or mulch or whatever it's gonna be, but I think that might be a
Yeah,
nice
Nick
thing.
and I
to
can
do.
discuss this further on and determine a plan with DPW, how to go forward with it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Carol.
All right, next up, we have health insurance. We have representatives from Acrisure here today. Hi, Cody, you wanna come on up, or you wanna? We have two
Come on
chairs,
down.
two seats there, we can. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so for members of the governing body, I think we've already discussed this a little bit, but, does anyone have any specific questions?
No.
Chris, is there anything you want to add?
No, just one thing I want to add, Nancy and I have been, looking into it. This is certainly a, benefit to the borough, where it would be cost savings. One of the things we did here, state health benefits is planning on going up another 20% for 2026. That's even a more significant increase than what we've had, in the past. So for us, looking at this is the best move for the borough, considering we've had low claim history this year. And this health insurance fund has been pretty discerning on who they would let in. I think it's a good move for the borough, cost savings, and plus, at the same time, all our people who are enrolled in this are getting the exact same benefits they get now. So there's no change, so it's not a decrease, they're going to the same Verizon plan, so it's a benefit for the borough, it's a benefit for the members who have to contribute into their healthcare, so it's a win all around as far as I'm concerned.
Great, I'm sorry to have brought you up here, it looks like we don't have anything to talk about, we never know on the show, but we appreciate you making the trip and.
How soon would it kick in?
What's that?
How soon would the transition?
We have the paperwork done, dependent on whether the governing body votes yes or no tonight, we're scheduled with those rates for June 1st. Yeah, that's why it was imperative to get it on for the governing body for tonight.
Nice work.
I think it's on the consent, it's on consent. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for coming, I appreciate it, thank you.
All right, next up, we have our Fairhaven Farmers Market. We're talking about May to November 2025.
We even got seats for you.
Anna and Elise are here. Allison, did you send that out? You're busy day. Did you guys all see the dates?
Yep.
Any issues with the dates?
Yeah, you did.
Any questions about the other alcohol related?
The follow-up on the liability question, Andrew, sorry, if you could just kind of go through one of the asks was, hey, looking at like the liability, right, both on 501c4 and the borough, and if anything we need to change, we could just kind of give a quick update on that.
Absolutely, I contacted the deputy bureau chief of the ABC. They put any concerns I might have to rest,
Awesome.
so I'm fully comfortable with that. I also spoke with Chief McGovern as well regarding any concerns he might have. And he didn't have any that raised any concerns for the governing body, so at this time I advise that they're good as far as a liability perspective.
Awesome.
And an insurance perspective, I reviewed their insurance policy as well.
Really appreciate it. I know we had to add an extra meeting in between, but the extra diligence, the process, and I'm very happy with the outcome, so thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Anything you guys need to add before I ask for motion? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
One quick question, is it possible we can get a governing body table? We know we talked about like all different tables and everything, but just,
We'll have
At the
to
farm.
get back to you on that.
Like,
I don't know, come meet if you have a question. If we talked about brush and leaf updates, we talked about updates across the board, so
if they're amenable.
if they're not, put that out there.
See how it's fixed.
Yeah,
I would do that.
I don't know, just a
It's
thought.
3 hours, right?
It's 3 hours.
If you guys get back to us.
You let us know.
We'd be happy to have you at the market, for sure. You guys,
What
we
do
have
we
it
need
for
to
the.
bring, just a table? and
You guys
You
send the
don't even have
tent
to do
up.
that. We
You
can,
send the tent up.
We're gonna.
you'll be ready.
Super excited. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, just Borough Grant Committee is on the agenda here. This is more driven for me. Obviously, 2 years ago, I set up the grant committee. I'm not gonna get into the reasons why I felt it was necessary at the time. And I think that everyone that volunteered for it did an excellent job. But with Chris joining up now, he's really he's going another extra step in trying to uncover grant opportunities, and he's doing grant writing. I'd like to shut the grant committee down. We could always bring it back if necessary. Also, if it's acceptable to everyone up here, I'd like to reach out to I think there were 2 remaining members that wanted to keep serving, to see if maybe I could find another role for them to continue to assist Chris in some sort of capacity if needed. But I didn't want to just independently do that without everyone's blessing. Is that good to go?
Great.
Okay.
And,
Sense.
And Michael's been talked to on it as well, and she was good with it as well.
and with compliments to Chris, I mean, I think you're right, we're in great hands, and just can't say enough about your leadership in the grants area.
Okay, next up, we have the proposed code amendments to chapter 7 traffic chief. That's, I believe that's, your support, if anyone has any questions on these. Does anyone?
Have residents been notified, I guess, in that area that they're coming? I would assume so, but.
Is that for the stop sign?
Yeah.
That's part of the.
No, I mean, it's public right here, but there's
Okay.
no. I mean, the resident, the residents that came to us, last year, I think, maybe, I don't remember who met.
Betsy and I.
We met last year, we met again this year, we met, I spoke to almost every council
Right.
member, and like I said, they came to us with it.
Okay, great.
I just want to highlight and say thank you to Chief, right, the governing body, to ensure that the continuity from last year, right, continued. Right, when the initial list, if you recall, last year came up, it was a significant analysis, I think that Daryl, I forget what lieutenant did it, but there was a huge analysis. And last year we
started, right?
Yeah, and so last year we tackled a handful and we said, hey, we'll address these next when the time makes sense. So I just want to double down on
Yeah,
the.
we gave a
continuity.
big list and then, you know, met with Rich and there's no reason to move forward with Ferry Road, you could Ferry Road get it done when I wanted to. So
Right.
Yeah.
that's why we held off on this. We talked about it last year,
Mhm.
but we.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. So we need a motion there?
I think
We're
it's
on
on.
consent?
I think
It's
it's
on
on.
consent?
An ordinance.
Instead of on the next agenda.
Yeah, it's a draft.
So we don't need a motion.
Okay.
Okay, yep, we're good.
Also, could you hit slideshow just to make it bigger at the top? If you hit, hey Allison, if you hit slideshow at the top, it'll take the whole screen.
There we go.
Yeah, so, just a little background before Nancy gets in. For the last several months, we've been meeting with the finance committee. We started this back in the fall of 2024. Finance committee consisting of Councilman Olson, Councilwoman DiVaselli, also Jonathan Peters, Bob Mancuso, our student representative, Zach Halpern, and then Nancy and I. And we've been talking about as far as what we were gonna do for the 2025 budget and what impact we have. And there's a couple of points that we had to take into consideration this year as far as the tax levy and appropriations cap, which we'll get a little further in on the discussion. We're pretty happy with this budget. And you can see, just to start off, which have good news in the beginning, this proposed budget is going to result in a $12.15 reduction in taxes for an average assessed household at 1.2,015,400. So in the beginning, this new budget will give a slight reduction in taxes for residents here in Fairhaven. So I'll let Nancy get into some of the points and I'll comment as we go along.
So,
Just one more clip, because we edited this.
no, can we go back to the first slide? Sorry. Chris had mentioned the bottom, but I want to talk a little bit about the top. All right. So this just is going to give you a quick breakdown of where our funding's coming up from for our budget. So you can see we're using 1.6 fund balance. It's just 10,000 more than last year. Our local revenues are the 1.3, a little bit over 1.3, our state aid, which you may see as energy receipts. That's what our state aid is. 460,000, that is down. There is no longer, we were at one point getting a municipal relief aid, that nobody's getting that anymore. There's another 50,000, sadly we're not getting that. Grants are sort of a wash, but they come in here because they are funding. So whatever you'll see grants here will also be in grants and in appropriation. Delinquent tax, that is an estimate based on prior years. And so those first items are revenues, then you come down to what the amount that's going to be raised by taxes, the local purpose tax, which is 8.7936339. For a total budget of basically 12.4, it's a little bit under 12.4 for the year. And as Chris said, we are seeing a small decrease in the municipal portion of our taxes. Just want to clarify municipal, we still have the school and the county to add to that, but the municipal budget is a little bit below.
And just one thing just to add to, as far as other funding we lost, last year was the last year that we had the ARPA money, that was the COVID money. That was the last year we used it, and that was in last year's budget, that was roughly 200,000. We did not have that this year, so that was another obstacle that we had to face as well, putting this budget together.
Yeah, so between the 200 there and the 50 for the municipal relief aid, we started out 250.
We still have a decrease.
Still have a decrease, yeah.
All right.
Brooke, you're on.
Thank you, Allison. So this is just gonna show you the budget year over year. So this is this year. The first column to the left is 2025, the next one is 2024. Change of percentages. I'm not gonna read it all to you. You can obviously read, but it just gives you a good idea of where we're, where we were, where we're moving towards. You can see that state aid change, the delinquent tax, for the budget year, so last year was 140. We bumped it up a little bit just based on our collections, so our collections went down just a little bit. So we just want to make sure we're covered there. And you can also see our salaries and appropriations, they only went up 4.9, other expenses 1.78, so we came pretty close to staying within, our appropriations did go up too high, our revenue stayed low, didn't really have to add a lot of surplus in. You can see at the bottom, condition of surplus, you'll see that we've increased our surplus almost 300,000 for this year, which is important, especially going into the fact we need to maintain our bond rating. We're gonna be going out for permanent debt at the end of the year. So we're gonna need to maintain our bond rating for that to get a good interest rate. And, the governing body will have more option as to how they want to handle that permanent financing, whether you want to add a little bit in, whether you want to bond the whole thing. So that's a topic for another day, but it's good that we were able to do that so that we have options when it comes to our permanent financing for, our debt that's coming on from the facilities.
And currently, this year, we're still at AA plus. So
Yes,
we
we're
like-
still
we
AA
like to
plus.
Keep it that.
And, talking to our auditor, that's probably where we'll stay because we're a small municipality. So AA plus for a municipality our size is great. So this is summary of tax rates. 2024 is an actual, 2025 is an estimate. So like I mentioned before, we're just really talking about our own budget. The estimate for county and school taxes, it's just 2%. Again, they have options and exclusions to increase a little bit over the 2%, that we have no control over whatsoever. So, but we average it out at 2%, and this will just break it down, show you that if the county and the school remain at their 2% increase, we're actually going to see a decrease overall in our tax rate, which would be great. But again, we don't control that. And you can also see one more thing at the bottom, our net valuation taxable, so that's our total assessed value, has increased significantly, and it's been doing that the last few years. Fairhaven's a very great place to be. Your property values definitely increase on the regular. Just a summary of our appropriations. So you'll see the first line at 8.9, those are appropriations within caps. Keeping in mind anything within caps, it's salaries, other expenses, insurance, pension, things of that nature. Anything statutory and shared services, things like that, debt, they're going to be out of cap. So our in-cap expense is about little over 8.9. Trying to read this and that. Our exclusions from cap are around at 2.8. So we're in good shape. The next sheet, this is our cap calculation. So the left side is, that just uses all of the numbers from last year. Then you come on the other side, it just shows you what our allowable appropriations are. So just about 9 million before exceptions. Then you can add in the cap bank. So our maximum appropriations at the 2.5% is 9.241. Increase, you add our COLA increase, gives you another 88. So our maximum appropriations within caps is 9.330192.54. We are definitely below that. So we've given ourselves some room in our appropriations cap, which is nice. Yep. So if something comes up next year, our debt service and all that, we'll have a little bit of room to add that in. So that was good. Next is our levy cap. So the levy cap is 2%. There are some exclusions to that, and the exclusions are mostly increases from the prior year. So it doesn't roll over each year, like deferred, if we're gonna make a deferred charge to pay down some debt, you only get that increase. So last year we did 250, we're doing 250 this year. There is no exception in the tax levy because you're not increasing it, so there's no exception. So here we did run into a little bit of, we needed to use a little bit of cap bank here. Our adjusted tax levy was 8.5. Then you add in the new rateables,
And we added in all of the cap bank that's available. The reason for that is, in speaking to our auditor, when you leave the cap bank in yearly, it eventually expires, right? So instead of allowing it to expire, if you pull it into your budget now, even though you're not gonna use it, it gives you another 3 years. So,
Is there a, oh, I can wait.
so that's why you'll see that we pulled in all of our cap bank, which then creates more levy cap bank. But the reason for that is so that it doesn't expire, it just keeps getting rolled over. But even with that being said, we did need to use some cap bank this year, and a lot of that was due to the loss of the 250,000 we spoke about a little bit earlier. So again, our amount to be raised by taxation is 8.7936339. And then our last slide just gives you a breakdown of where we're at, as far as salaries, other expenses. So you'll see 2 lines for salaries, one is in cap, one is out of cap. The items that are out of cap are our library because they're a shared service. And some of our stormwater, we did put some money in stormwater salaries because we can charge that out of cap for street sweeping. So a small percentage of one of our guys is gonna go towards, will come out of cap, be put towards stormwater. Then it breaks down, so security pensions, gives you a breakdown of everything, and then on the bottom, you'll see our other expenses. The nice thing is it gives you the percentages, so we spend on employees about 38.4% of our budget. It's a large percent, but the way it is, and then our other expenses are 41.3. Our debt service right now isn't terrible, but we will see an increase in that next year when we go to permanent finance. So that is what we wanted to present, but you guys all got a full copy of the budget. So if you have any questions, whether it be for the presentation or for what we did, what you have in front of you for the full budget.
Yeah,
feel free to ask.
and just to add, what Nancy and I tried to do, we tried to crystallize this to, put a visual up there and, break it down, to the important key points, for the introduction. But again, if there's any other questions further than that, feel free to ask us.
Oh, and one last thing, not this, so I have the last word, but we're also going to put together a little bit of a different presentation for the public hearing on the day of adoption.
Oh, good, good.
Just a little something for the public. This is more geared to.
Thank you for that. That was a great overview. 2 questions from me. First one, is there anything we could have done or can do to get a AAA rating? Or for the size of the municipality, they were
It's
like, it's
basically-
not.
Yeah, when I talked to Brian would be able to answer that a little bit better than I. But when I spoke with our auditor the other day, he said just the size of our municipality, it's just probably not gonna happen.
Okay,
Yeah, and the factor of waterfront community too,
Yeah,
that also affects it.
one storm away.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And then the second question, you said that it was 33% or 34% was our employees?
38,
What was it?
38.
38? So is that typical for municipality or is it based on the size of the municipality? Like, is there a number we should be striving for?
I don't know a lot of the surrounding towns our size, what their, their percentages. I actually think that for a town our size and still needing this, you need personnel to run the town. I think we're doing pretty good. I mean, I've heard of some towns that are, high 40s, low 50s.
Right.
We're pretty lean.
Yeah,
We've got a great staff that works hard.
Yeah, I would agree with Nancy on that. You do run pretty lean and considering, employee salaries usually your biggest item in the budget. We, at 34, what was it,
38.4.
38.4% is actually pretty low considering.
Great, thank you.
Just 2 comments first, for my 2 comments, well done, like exceptional work. Want to just validate my numbers, so the packet was super helpful, overall appropriations dropped around a little under 7%.
Okay,
We're only going to use 2.5% of the cap instead of going to 3.5%, is that correct?
so we are doing the ordinance for the COLA because that'll allow us to take we're still gonna take the 3.5%,
Okay.
which will add to our cap. bank.
Check, and then, so the municipal tax is going down, municipal only,
Mhm.
but we are still increasing a percent budget to adjust for inflation, right? Because in previous budgets, years ago, they kept it at a 0% increase.
Yeah.
And then what that happened was, right, then the cap ceiling just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So in addition to cutting the tax, you're actually starting to increase the cap ceiling for us to accommodate, God forbid, in the future, we get to another 50% increase on, okay. Well done,
That's
thank
what we're
you.
trying to do. And between the cap, the appropriations cap and the levy cap, we have to juggle both.
Yeah, no, it's,
To leave room, yes, because, you know, things are going to increase.
yeah, well, like exceptional job, kudos to Brian, kudos to Michael, Chris, Nancy, like, well done, thanks.
Yeah, I had a question on sheet number 17. So under unclassified, under general appropriation.
Give me 1 second just to get there, okay?
So I'm assuming the celebration of public events, that $10,000 is for fireworks.
That $10,000 is earmarked towards towards public celebration, it's up to the governing body
Okay,
to
so how we
decide.
choose to spend it.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, we don't decide that, you guys do.
And that's the same number it was last year
Yeah.
too, we didn't change it.
And that's what
Right.
we did earmark it
Right.
for last year.
yeah.
If that answers your
just
question. Yep.
And then I just was unsure, under salary and wage adjustments, in 24 it was $71,000, but in 25 it's 5,000. Is that for raises or is that for additional compensation for employees?
So your salary and wage adjustment normally is anywhere between 5 and 10. The governing body, well, the personnel committee and with approval from the governing body last year, decided to be a little, I don't want to say aggressive, I'm trying to think of the right word, but a little more aggressive with salaries.
Generous?
No, generous. Generous, there's
Yeah,
much
generous.
better word, thank you. I knew aggressive was not the right word, but appreciate the help. So a little bit more generous with salaries for people that maybe, needed to be brought up
Mhm.
to comparable positions in other towns and things of that nature. So that's why, I was not the CFO at that time, but my understanding is that was the reason for the increased salary and wage adjustment. Normally you want between 5 and 10, in case, you feel that you want to give somebody a little bit extra, or you hire somebody new and your budget's here, but now you have to go a little bit higher. It just gives you a little room for movement there.
So
So you
that,
want something, but 71, there was no need to go there again this year.
so that $5,000 is in addition to, say, a 2% salary increase, or,
Correct.
okay.
2.5.
Hasn't been voted on yet, but I believe the recommendation is 2.5.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
One question, is it correct to say that you've opened up the flexibility for appropriations within cap? So and I might not have even used the right.
Yes.
Yes.
With the cap bank we have. However, that's not our plan. The finance committee's plan as a whole. It's more for increases. I mean, we're gonna see, everybody's hearing it, DCP&L is gonna be 4% increases here.
And we have 2 all-electric buildings that are gonna
Yep.
be going online.
Yep.
and,
Yeah.
So
Probably another month.
for things like that, so we were trying to take into consideration what we might not have a choice but to increase next year. So we're not looking to, as Brian, to channel my inner Brian Olson, we're not looking to spend up to that amount. But we do have the ability, if we have to, that with the appropriation cap bank, it is available for
Yeah,
us.
and another thing too, at the end of this year, we have 2 collective bargaining agreements
Yeah.
for police and DPW that expire, so we'll be entering into contract negotiations with a new contract starting in 2026, so.
And
These were all things that between electric increases, contract negotiations, all things we kept in the back of our mind.
our debt service is gonna cost money,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
And debt services in cap, right? Isn't it in cap?
Debt service itself is out of cap, but the
Okay.
cost to, like, the bond council is in cap.
Okay,
Bond council, financial advisor, they're in cap. Debt service itself is
but
out.
the actual payments are out of cap.
Correct.
The actual payments are out of cap, but there is a significant charge for handling like the bond ordinances and all the paperwork that they do for us.
So just to use an example, say the governing body determined that we were going to take steps to make some improvements at McCorder Pond. A portion of that, there'd be some soft costs, and then there might be some financing. The soft cost would be those professional services.
So this is we're talking about two different things. So debt service is debt that's already been approved. We've already authorized funding,
That I
whether it's fully funded or not. Because
Mhm.
right now we have a ban, we have a bond and a ban. Bond is permanent, a ban is not,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So we're looking to go out for a bond for what's in the ban. I know it's a lot of B words there. So that's just talking about what's already been authorized. If you're looking to work on a project that already doesn't have an ordinance, that's a whole different animal.
Mhm.
That would require either reappropriating some capital that may be left from another project
Mhm.
or authorizing additional funding.
Mhm. And I guess my question, which maybe I didn't get to clearly, what part of that would be outside cap?
So the part of that would be outside cap would be any costs associated with the bond counsel or our financial advisor.
Okay.
But anything for that's specific to the project, if you need, I believe we were mentioning soft costs specific to the project, professionals for, specs or whatever, that would be part of the project and therefore would be considered capital, which is out of cap.
However, yeah, and if it was a shared service as well, we ended up going into the shared service we discussed with county for hydro raking, that would be an out of cap expense.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you both.
Just a huge thank you. I mean, between Chris, your knowledge of budgeting, managing large budgets, all the shared service agreements that you've gotten for us, I would imagine this 4.7 or 38% number is actually down from last year.
It was a great team effort between the two of us and our finance council, so we had a great team.
Well, I was just gonna, Brian's obviously expertise in municipal debt, but Nancy, this is your first official year being the CFO and you did an incredible job. You really dug in, I know you did, while you've mentioned Bob Allison a couple of times, I'm sure he's great. You really dug in on the data and really did the audit yourself, so thank you. I know how hard you worked on this.
Thank you.
Just so I understand, if I were to communicate this to a resident, so our municipal tax rate is coming down, right? But we're going to have debt coming to fruition from facilities. Are we not realizing that debt until 2026? Is that?
2026 is
Okay.
Correct.
So the plan is in this summer.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a look at our capital, the finance committee. When I say we, I mean the finance committee and everybody. To review our capital, what we're gonna use, what we still need, what we need to go out for permanent financing. And then towards the end of the year, we'll start looking to permanently finance it.
Okay.
But it takes time. You're looking at 26.
Okay.
Great. I want again echo the thank you to everyone that was involved here. This is now second straight year with a municipal tax decrease. Everyone that's actually up here has been here for almost up to 3 years at this point. And I believe in the last 4 years, I'll get the exact numbers for the next meeting, but in 4 years, we've only increased the municipal taxes like a total of 4% aggregate in the 4 years. It might even be less than that with the decrease. So, that fiscal prudence is something that also should be admired by everyone. We had to make some tough decisions up here. We didn't always agree. And there was some spirited conversation at times. But at the end of the day, I think, the result is we delivered for our taxpayers and our residents, and I couldn't be more proud to see the result up there. Thank you for your assistance and support in getting us there, and I'm pretty pumped up.
Yeah,
So,
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Nice work, guys.
Right after that, I want to jump in, so proposed appropriation cap reform letter. I was planning to write this on my own. I still plan to do that, to some state representation, maybe seeking some relief. I know that we've created our own relief in making some of these hard decisions. But there were times this year, obviously, there were some challenging decisions that felt like they were forced on us. So I just, what I want to say to everyone here is if you have certain topics that you would like me to incorporate or build into this letter, or you have concerns about me writing this letter, please let me know, shoot me an email, shoot me a text, give me a call next 2 weeks. I think I'm gonna work along with Chris and put something together so that we can get ahead of it, whether it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever it is, we want to make sure that we put ourselves in the best position moving forward from budget to budget, so. Good.
I'm glad that you're doing this. I'd like to go a step further and suggest we actually do, let the council vote on it. And likely in the form of a resolution, because that's the government speaks in ordinances and resolutions, so have the full support of the entire governing body. We could adopt something that is of the wording that you have in mind based on your meeting with Chris and Nancy, whoever you're gonna consult with. So that, we're standing with you, you know? It's just a different mechanism, but it gets the job done.
I'll leave that to the governing body, whether they want to go in that direction. You know, I don't really have an opinion either way, hearing it off the cuff, and I'm gonna continue with the conversation, and after, obviously, after I put it together, I'll share it with, and then we can make a decision, collective decision on how we wanna go.
But
Good.
say it before you send it out.
Yeah, I won't send that out without showing, yep. All right. Okay, next up, Chris, volunteer code of conduct.
Yep, so, you know, one of the things to take a look at is, we were taking a look at our, volunteer handbook. There's really not a lot that has to deal with ethics in there as far as code of conduct, and we have a lot of new members who are filling boards, and I'm sure we'll continue to have a lot of new members filling boards, and one of the things certainly strikes me about Fairhaven, I think that makes Fairhaven special, is the amount of volunteers that we have. And because we have so many volunteers, you get people get positions and they might not know certain things, so. One of the things the mayor and I had talked about, and I've been working with our labor attorney, Matt Giacobbe, is taking a look at volunteer code of conducts that other municipalities have, and again, you know, Matt Giacobbe represents a lot of towns in New Jersey, so he was able to provide me with a bunch. And we're looking for language as far as just to protect everybody ethics. And again, just, you know, I can even give a simple example, you know, just so people know if they're on boards, one, recuse themselves, to know maybe if they're involved in a conversation, and maybe somebody has a business interest with somebody and somebody's coming in to do an application, you know, they know to recuse themselves, and that just basic stuff so that nobody gets in trouble. You know, again, not to say, and I don't really think anybody ever would, but you know, everybody has good hearts when they volunteer, but sometimes, you know, you make mistakes if you don't know. So we want to make sure that everybody knows. It's something that we would make an addendum to our volunteer handbook. I had another meeting with Matt Giacobbe today just to discuss some language on it. I should have it drafted that by our April 7th council meeting, and I'll send it out to the governing body members to review, so they know ahead of time and to vote on it. But again, just to protect everybody so they know, you know, the right things to do.
And I just want to echo that we would never ask our volunteers to sign something that we wouldn't sign ourselves as well. So yes, is that?
That's kind of what I was getting at, you know, does this apply to us as well?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
It would apply to any volunteer, again, who is not an employee, again.
Right.
And again, it's just, it's your basic ethic as far as, you know.
Right.
What you can do, what you can't.
Thank you. Moving along, stormwater management update, Councilman LaBarbera, then, yeah, why don't we start there?
Yeah, copy that, thanks, Mayor. In the spirit of brevity in tonight, if the governing body recalls, 2 years ago, we were looking at the stormwater ordinance specific to a loophole that we identified with additions. Right, based on the current ordinance language, new construction requires that the roof runoff is captured and stays on property, right? So that the new construction, the new building has a net zero impact on the stormwater infrastructure. So we found loophole with addition. We went through and we put some updated language together in the ordinance, and that was last year. Where we left off was, I so graciously volunteered, I don't know if I'm happy I did it now, but so graciously volunteered to pretend that the ordinance language that we updated, which was literally one sentence, to go through with it. And Nick and Rich both humored me, and we treated this process. So to bring the governing body up to speed with a status and a kind of a request is, so the process took us 4 months. So I engaged a stormwater engineer and went through a 4-month long process, from topography to maps to test pits to ultimate solution. It cost $6,200 in addition to everything else. As I've worked with Nick and as I've worked with Rich on it, there was a collective understanding, agreement, and guys chime in here, that, you know, to ask residents to take that extra amount of time and that much money for the full in-depth stormwater plan might not make sense and might not be applicable. However, there's pieces of it that are applicable. And so what we want to do is we know that there's a larger stormwater ordinance change happening, right? There's significant language coming down. But given that this is a small change within the ordinance, it'll have far greater impact, meaning the goal of it is to make sure that additions have their runoff be captured on site. I want to work with Rich and Nick to provide a version 2 of the ordinance, maybe not as rigorous as it was, just given the amount of time and money that it added in addition to the project. But ensure that there's enough data so that from a stormwater solution, a better plan can be created. And to go back 4 years, this all stemmed from a zoning board frustration, comment, feedback, where the ordinance wasn't clear when it came to additions, and the zoning board couldn't enforce the same stormwater rigor that was with new construction. So background, my personal experience with it, and the request to work with Rich, work with Nick on tweaking and making sure that the key components of the process over the last 4 months are put in place, that one, we have a balance of no net impact into storm infrastructure, but we're not adversely affecting our residents to an unscalable degree, I'll say.
You're looking to reduce the cost.
Well, you can't, the only way to reduce the cost is reduce the scope. So the question becomes is what components of the process over the last 4 months are the biggest bang for the buck? From a non-technical, non-educated individual in the space like these two gentlemen are, I've found the most bang for the buck with the test pits. Test pits where they dug a 12.5 foot deep hole. They tested the soils and they confirmed that one, I could put a drywall on my property, and two, my property actually can handle it.
And did you put a drywall?
I'm going to, yeah, that's the approved plan, yeah.
And how expensive is the drywall?
Uh, yeah, so the prices that I've gotten for a professional to do it,
Mhm.
is somewhere between 2,200 to 3,400 are the two quotes that I have as of now. I'm waiting on my third quote. So as far as the material and all of that, it's stone, dirt, and 2 plastic pipes. But it's really the machinery that's the greatest cost, because they have to dig a certain depth, right? It has to be certain width, certain length. Then you gotta have the DGA, then you gotta have the pipes and the filter on top in the dirt. So there's a lot of manual intensive work required. I have heard of people DIY it. I was even looking to DIY it, but when I saw the extent of it, I said, yeah, I'm gonna tap out of that.
Yeah.
So,
Couple questions.
yeah,
Really for Nick and Rich, I think, what would you say are what are the average number of additions that come through the office annually?
Devil's in the details, the deep, like an addition that's just a small little, mud room versus someone that comes in and the addition is really a whole renovation and new construction.
Right.
And from the zoning perspective, we've always tried to use a common sense approach in evaluating these applications and making sure that their proposed improvements and the asks from the community and from the zoning and engineering part of it kind of are balanced.
It also depends what zone it's in, if it's in smaller lot areas versus some of the larger lots. If you're doing a small addition off the back, there may be little or no impact, because that property can absorb what's there. Where some of the smaller lots, in Councilman's case, his property slopes to the northeast. So potential to adversely affect, there's 2 things we look at. We don't want to impact the neighbors. We don't want to impact our existing infrastructure, the street, the storm drainage system. To his point, what's the balance?
Yeah.
The numbers I'm hearing, $10,000 all in, right?
oh yeah, with,
Between engineering, the 4 months it took, the soil borings, plus the cost for the install. And then you also have to include our time to review it, to inspect it, to sign off on it, the process, the paperwork that's involved, the administrative piece of it. So,
grading, I didn't call into the grading either.
right,
Yeah.
so, And to Nick's point, every project's different, so you can't really quantify.
I guess if it's gonna become a piece of legislation, though, we'd wanna refine the definition of addition and what triggers it and how you measure adverse effect and,
And then also the environmental piece of it, if it's waterfront property or.
adjacent to a stream corridor or a wetland or other conservation area. And we've been reaching out to Rutgers to help us with this process as well. And, you know, obviously for a major development, there's rules and regulations for that. But the gap and the break there is for minor development. And it's not just us struggling with that, it's other municipalities as well. So the Rutgers Water Resources Group, has been helping us, and we've got to follow up with them as well as they kind of
okay.
coordinate that.
To the other category, there's major, minor, and then there's redevelopment where we have existing, I just don't wanna leave the conversation without saying that's important. too.
Yeah, so the state is kind of getting away
Yeah.
from that loophole of redevelopment. There's gonna be, in the future, there's gonna be no, allowances for redevelopment. It's gonna be kind of
Okay,
considered new development.
and
Or pre-
last question, I think.
A good question.
So actually, we don't know so addition is, I get it, it's a little difficult to determine the number of applications where we're looking at additions. But conceivably, it could be pretty much all of them, if an addition is a little bit of square footage, it's just a mudroom or a porch or a, you know, just putting it out there.
Yeah, that's fair.
We gotta see where, if we're gonna move with something like this, which is noble, to contain it all on site in principle. But exactly how it's done is, probably gonna be a little bit more involved than we may realize right now. Do you have any ideas about when the state is gonna send a new round of stormwater regs for municipal adoption?
There's some public, review processes going on right now. I don't know the exact timeline off the top of my head.
Okay, not this year.
Not, there's no timeline for this summer.
Thank you, Rich.
So GD's cool with it, would love to kind of go back, work with Nick, work with Rich, work with Sobel, Christina. Maybe even engage Todd Leader again on the zoning board and Fred Rolfe on the planning board. Obviously working through liaisons, just from a process perspective, Mayor. Did coordinate, right, with Brian before, gave him the synopsis and the update, with, you know, and asking him to put on the workshop. Would love to come with a V2. And have come back to workshop, don't come back with an introduction, come back with a workshop and take a look at it, because there was a lot of work done previously on what's considered addition, what's not. We went and looked at other boroughs that have experienced this and have closed a gap before, so would love kind of the quote unquote blessing and try and get something in the next 1 or 2 or 3 GB meetings back here.
And this is strictly addition.
Strictly additions, we're not touching anything else, it's only when an addition's on, any raindrop that hits the roof goes into the property.
I'd like to see the homework on it.
100%.
If that's what you're suggesting you're gonna do.
Yeah, we'll produce a V2 and then have all the supporting documents with it, because Jordan Rizzo did a ton on this 2 years ago, Christina Malma did a lot on this. With the original V1 that came out, it's been a while, I've been looking at it a lot, but.
You know, the year after you liaised with the zoning board, I did that gig. And I have to say the zoning board does a really good job, even though the legislation is there, the zoning board has certain authorities to go beyond what a planning board can do. And they regularly work with applicants, or at least they did the year I was there, to encourage some simple sort of, you could call it DIY, but friendly best practices, green infrastructure. That it's a little bit easier to execute. What does it achieve that technically 100%? You know, I'm not prepared to say it does, but it's a little bit easier for the applicants, a little bit easier on our professionals to be able to, you know, they're not policing it, they're just encouraging it.
Totally.
It's in the resolution of compliance, but it's, anyway, but it's something we keep talking about.
Yeah, we should, and again, the original impetus of this was from 22, right, with the zoning board and the report, where they called out this inconsistency. And then it put the zoning board behind the quote unquote 8 ball with the ability to enforce it, right? It was more of a conversation and a willingness on the applicant to do it. So, you know, it's just, I went through it. I went through the experience firsthand. I heard it from the other side of it, like from the zoning board. I mean, the entire office is hands-on, and it's not just with me, all the other applicants that I spoke to that are going through with it. I mean, these guys offer a white glove service. So it's just putting, it's that balance. It's putting just enough in there to say, hey, we take this seriously and we don't want to have this loophole here. But at the same token, we're not gonna, you know, put a string you behind with an arm behind your back and, you know, add 4 months and $15,000 to it, because then that's egregious, right? So what's the balance? And that will come back here for us as a collective group, to hopefully help strike.
Okay, thank you.
It says here that they're looking to adopt something in fall of 2025. But I don't know
Yeah.
what timing, that's what it says online, but you know.
It could take us that long.
Yeah.
Roll right into 21 Fairhaven Road.
Yep, so, everybody had the document sent out ahead of time, so I'm really just gonna kind of boil it down, and if there's questions, maybe approach it from that way, Mayor, if you're cool with that.
Sure.
Okay, so 5 main pieces to the overall plan. If anybody wants it, I'm sure we can pass it out. So the first piece is site stabilization. So at the last governing body meeting, the governing body authorized to go out to bid to stabilize the site. When we stabilize the site, that means people are able to walk on it, right? Doesn't mean we're gonna add things to it and stuff like that, but we have to deem it quote unquote, not quote unquote, we deem it safe so people can walk on it. The other piece is we want to work towards the July open space grant, and I'll talk about financing in a minute. Chris, back me up here. And that includes a few different things. That includes having open houses. We're gonna do one around the park area in the neighborhood. It includes the same kind of philosophy we did with facilities or brush or trash, right? One during the evening during the week, one in the morning on the weekends, and those components. We are also looking to engage professionals, a stormwater engineer, a landscape architect, a planner, and I'm forgetting the fourth one. It's in the document.
Well, environmental engineer, we
Thank
thought
you.
would cover
Thank you,
stormwater.
thank you. No, I think, but we separated those two, right? We said one ecological, environmental, one stormwater. Maybe, one or two. But when we look at it from a financing perspective, right now, the current ordinance, there's $986,000 put aside for site stabilization for 21 Fairhaven Road. And Chris can dive into this. The thought process is that if the governing body is open to it, we can amend the ordinance language so that it covers both the site stabilization and the matching for the Green Acres Fund. Open Space Fund, excuse me. So it's $986,000. We don't think it's gonna cost $986,000 to stabilize the site. So in theory, the thought process is $486 or less to stabilize the site, and then leave $500,000 of money that's already been, and I'm not gonna use the right
It's in the
language.
bond anticipation note.
There, that.
Oh, damn.
We don't have it.
Do we have the money? Has
So-
it been authorized?
So that's, so it's set for the bond anticipation note, right now is only by ordinance to be used for site stabilization and demolition, which does not include the bulkhead. So if we were to, and Nancy and I have had conversations about that,
Just that,
just demo.
no sites.
Okay, sorry, just demo. So no site stabilization as far as the, bulkhead or anything that goes, so, if wanted to be used for that, we'd have to change the ordinance.
Right, but does the money, ask your question, I don't wanna ask it for you.
Where, we don't have the $986,000
So
cash.
No, it's unfunded money in a bond anticipation note.
Right. So we'd have to go out and borrow it.
No, so it's part of all of the funds that are in the ban. Which is all of the debt service we're talking about going on permanently financing at the end of the year.
So it includes facilities.
It includes facilities,
Part of the
there's
same
5
bucket.
different ordinances that are part of that.
Yeah. Checking account.
Oh, so bond council's,
No, we haven't
and-
went, but we have an overall.
Appropriate or reach it.
Correct,
Yeah.
yes, sorry.
Yeah, those funds have already been authorized.
Yes. Sorry, Chris.
So there's no further authorization needed. Just the way the ordinance reads, that it was for the purchase and demo of the building on that property. There are additional funds, we would just have to amend the ordinance.
Right.
In order to use them for anything other than demolition at this point.
Maple Ave. Like Maple Ave. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I'm drawing blank.
So if that was something that the governing body wanted to do, we would want to get that on the agenda, to change that wording probably for April. If we wanted to use that as the matching portion, to apply for the, Monmouth County Open Space Grant. Because right now, Monmouth County Open Space Grant, we traditionally 250,000 match. This year they raised it, and again, that funding comes from the county open space money, so and it trickles down to the town, so this year it's maxed at a 500,000 match. So if we want to go with a 500,000 match, we would need to come up with 500,000.
Right.
So,
Do we have a- I'm sorry, guys.
oh, I'm sorry. We need that $500,000 to go for the grant, or do we get the grant and then?
We get the grant, so let's say, for example, if we, let's say they only gave us 200, basically apply for 500,000, they only give us 200,000. Then we would be obligated to have a $200,000 amount in order to accept the grant.
And that's within the band?
Correct.
Thank you.
The other key piece that I want to call out to this is one of the items here is that the engagement with a variety of stakeholders that exist in all different committees and commissions. So Tracy and I are gonna be working with each governing body member so that you're armed with all the information to bring it to the respective committees and commissions and groups to get the feedback to come back. Right, as opposed to when we were doing facilities, there was a little bit of a fire, quote unquote, no fire, but there was a little bit of a sense of urgency, excuse me. Fire drill, thank you. That we kind of shortcutted that, right? We just went straight to the committees, we did the stakeholder engagement. So given that there's no real immediate sense of urgency here, other than time, but we have time is on our side. We want to work with each liaison to the respective committees and commissions to solicit feedback. And we'll provide this governing body updates and whatnot. We'll follow up with the letter of intent and resolution in June, followed by the authorization for the grant end of June. And by that point, we'll have a pretty solid conceptual plan for 21 Fairhaven.
Yeah, just to add one thing for the record, the application due date is July 11th, so everything has to be sent to county before July 11th.
If we want to take advantage of the 500.
Or any portion of it, even if, you know, you decided you only wanted to apply for 200,000 of it, you know, it was everything, the grant applications to July 11th.
Just to also clarify, and I know Chris said this for clarification, we would have to be able to certify that those funds are available to match prior to applying.
Right, that's where I was getting, that we need that money before we actually apply for the grant.
Correct, so we would need to amend the ordinance, if that's what you so choose to do. We would have to amend that before we even submit our application.
What's the estoppel period after we,
20 days.
so it's introduce, adopt, wait 20, and then we're good to go. So we have to work backwards from that.
Correct.
Check.
And so April would be, if again, the governing body chose to do it, April would be the month to do it.
And keeping in mind that we do have to work with bond counsel in their time to get the ordinance out.
We also have to retain the professionals to produce the elements that go into the application.
Yep, exactly. So that's part of the approval requesting today too, right, is to be able to do that.
Yeah,
You take a motion?
we do need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
So
Very comprehensive and thoughtful.
What do we approve?
Well, the request is, okay, that's right, you could do
Right,
that.
just real quick, right now, there's no funding for, I'm glad Nancy said that. There's no funding for professionals yet,
Yeah,
because we have not changed the wording of that.
but we can do all the diligence, we can reach out to them, we can get quotes and everything, but we can't execute the quote until the funding's done, which is gonna be introduce, adopt in 20 days.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right,
understood.
right, we just can't have any services prior to that,
Okay,
so that's just clear for them.
20 days from advertisement,
Yeah, understood.
not from an ordinance.
all right,
So do we need a motion or no?
or just the consent?
Consent of the
council?
plan and the update
Okay.
the ordinance language.
Mhm.
So the lights. All right.
Yep.
All right. That's good. We're good, brush and leaf? Good to go to brush and leaf here?
Yeah.
All right, so again, in the spirit that everybody had, the 4-page kind of assessment, I first want to give huge kudos to the Brush and Leaf Committee. There's been a lot of work on this, discussions, meetings, all of that. We have a couple Brush and Leaf Committee members in the audience, which is fantastic. I'm gonna hone straight into the recommendation. So the public notes in the document we have, and if anybody wants it, please reach out to Chris. There's 2024 key data points. It gives all data on street sweeping, brush collection, leaf collection, in terms of cost and all that. And there's a significant section in here on the public education that we need to do. And we'll obviously work with communications on that. So the primary recommendations come down to 5 key areas. The first one is rolling leaf pickup is misleading. It needs to be, it's ongoing leaf pickup, and that has to be accompanied by significant educational and reach out and working across the board. Originally, we've oscillated back and forth between adjusting the leaf collection schedule. Based on conversations that I've had, I think the sentiment is to keep the leaf collection schedule as is and don't eat into January. Folks, there was so much feedback on not only allowing neutral color containers, but also allowing other types of approved containers. So a lot of the feedback, and this is a testament to Betty Ann and how many phone calls she fields. Folks are like, listen, I have 32 gallon or less cans, but they're green, but they're blue, but they're black. Right, and the original intent of this is to try and keep as much stuff off of the streets as possible. So, and then the other piece was folks were like, hey, I have these great lightweight collapsible containers, right? They're blue, they're gray, they're all different colors, but they collapse. And so the feedback was, well, let's expand it. And somebody on the Brush and Leaf said, well, don't you think it's going to be frustrating to those folks that have bought the very can already? And there is going to be a certain aspect of yes, but the other aspect of it too is, and this has been a testament, I think, of the governing body the last several years, is that no ordinance is perfect, right? We implement it, we take feedback, and we look to improve it. So that was another one. The fourth one, and this is a significant one for me personally, is explicitly prohibit blowing leaves or other matter into our bodies of water. Whether it's the creeks, whether it's whatever body of water may exist right around the borough. And then the fifth piece, obviously, I hit it at the beginning, was the public education effort. There is so much that we can be doing on public education, and we need to do a better job of it and talk about alternatives, talk about, you know, what the differences are between brush, yard, grass, etc. The biggest point also, just to kind of put a bow on it and then turn over to questions again, knowing that everybody had a document. I think for me too, I underestimated the manpower required to make brush work and leaf work, especially in the fall. And so in conversations with the DPW and conversations with Chris, and obviously being budget conscious, what we talked about was having the flexibility financially, which is in the budget, to bring on part-timers during those heavy volume times. Leaves didn't fall, I think leaves fell late this year because it was drought, right? So this year the leaves fell late. So it was super light in the, you know, first, second, third, fourth week of November, and then right everything fall. And we have to arm our DPW with the ability to kind of mobilize and handle that increased volume, given that that's not what they're only dedicated to, right? They're doing 10 other things, 20 other things, 30 other things around town. So just to put a bow on it, you know, 5 primary recommendations, 1 focused heavily on education, and then 1 central theme, making sure that the DPW is armed with some additional part-time help only during the brush season to augment the volume.
I have a question. Thank you.
Mr. Halper.
So, first of all, thank you to the whole committee and yourself for the hard work that you've done here again in year 2. My one concern is, I know, you know how I feel about the cans, but now we're talking about collapsible containers, which I don't even know what that is. I have a concern that people are gonna start putting baby pools out and, you know, random things, and we're gonna start like a garbage can. At least we can't break it as a municipality. You know, if someone puts out whatever a collapsible container is, the thing breaks. Now the municipality is told that they owe a resident, you know, $160 for their state-of-the-art Home Depot collapse-a-can. It would be my opinion. Hey, let's do it year by year incrementally. Let's just allow them to get the colors. They could put wheels on it if they want to get wheels
Wheels
on
were
it.
already part of it.
Okay.
Just wanna make sure,
Yeah,
wheels from day one, we had a couple residents reach out, just one for the record. and it was like,
okay.
That's fine, Mayor.
I have a little worry about, my worry was always the aesthetic, which not everyone shared. And I understand we're trying to get as many people to buy into the program as possible, but I don't wanna do it in a way where literally people are throwing stuff in the garage out there. Just putting stuff in.
That's fair. My fear with the other type of candidate, and I just wanted to report back what was said. My fear is there is they start putting out like, plastic totes. You know, like a plastic tote or something out and everything, so,
Plastic totes.
I think expanding it to any
Any
Color
color
can.
can, 32 gallon or,
less,
It's movement.
it's
Shows
movement.
that we're listening.
and I would probably keep it to circular just for the benefit of the staff. That, you know, they're not grabbing rectangles and weird shapes and stuff, you
Yeah,
know?
copy that.
Is that correct? Would that be accurate or no? You're all right?
Yeah, that's fine, as long as they drill holes in the bottom, so it doesn't, retain the water, that's where a lot of problems also
So you
stem from.
would like us, as part of education, to let the residents know to drill their own holes, correct?
Yeah, that's part of
Okay.
the education process.
Alright.
And just so everybody knows, right, when the Brush and Leaf met again a couple weeks ago. What we said was that you can't, the program is from March to December. Right, so we wanna think of this as an entire system, right? And so the use of the cans during leaf pickup. If residents wanna use their cans and put the leaves in it, great. If residents are educated, like, hey, you can mulch the leaves and you can put it in the can, well, then you need less space to pick up. You can mulch it and leave it on site, right? These are all like the different aspects. So the entire premise of the feedback that everybody received on Thursday was to look at this as a cohesive program that starts in March and ends in December and utilizes all the different aspects of it, so.
Beautiful.
I'd just like to say that, because this is a service, and we've kind of focused on compliance. I think it's really in our interest to come up with, ways to make this easy for the residents. I think it's a good idea to relax the containers. I don't think people want pools full of leaves out in front of their houses any more than you want to see it there. I'm not personally worried about that. But if we want it to work, we need to relax it enough to make it easy for people to do what we're asking them to do. And I think we're getting there. My compliments also to the committee, who I know has stayed at this ongoingly. This is not an easy one. There's a category of waste and I know it's not part of this program, but it used to be the norm, it was customary rather, for residents to put vegetative waste at the curb. And we don't do that now. My question is and I've mentioned this before as part of the the last round of changes about providing alternatives. You could consider communication, you could consider education, but really, it's gotta be part of the service. Advising residents of where they can put pumpkins, hay bales, corn stalks. You know, the burnt out plants that are not gonna stay in garden beds, and there's a lot of gardeners in town. And it's been their habit to put it at the street. Not their fault that we're not doing it anymore, but it would be a really good idea, might help to bring about
Education.
compliance if we could provide an easy way for them to put it somewhere else. I'd like to ask Nick and Rich if you have any suggestions right now, or if it's something you could think about, or ask the Brush and Leaf Committee to talk about it. Has it come up?
Yeah, well, part of it is, looking at the entire program and then looking at where the end disposal of the product is. So in other words, if we're collecting the designated brush and we're bringing it to our brush staging area and we're keeping it there until we grind it and we go out for quotes for grinding it, we've gained a reputation of having good brush to grind. And that's kept our prices down for grinding. If we start to mix yard waste or other contaminants into the brush material, when they come to visually inspect the brush grinding, the staging area, the prices are gonna go up. We need to keep that in kind of in our mind. The farm location for the leaves is another disposal site that we need to take into consideration. So it's a active farm, you know, they use it throughout the year to plant pumpkins, and they mix our leaves and manure with the pumpkin seeds, and they grow an entire pumpkin patch. And that's why we can't utilize them until after Halloween. So after Halloween, they take all the pumpkins, they take them to Staten Island or to New York, and then they open up the fields for us to bring our leaves there. And, you know, our guys are conscious of the leaf piles in the streets and make sure that we take out any type of brush, plastics or whatever, because they charge us as well for a recycling fee or a littering fee, they call it, or whatever. So we have to be careful how much stuff that, you know, accumulates in the gutter. By putting it in the containers, that kind of helps us, you know, kind of make sure that we're providing the best product for the disposal places and keeping our costs down. The springtime, the spring cleanup, we take to Mazza, or we have to kind of have a decision with the guys on the road if we're gonna take it to our site or if we're gonna take it to Mazza, depending on how much it's contaminated. And
May I ask you a question on that?
sure,
Is vegetative waste considered, just for this discussion, contaminant?
Yes,
Okay,
and we called that in the last ordinance, vegetative waste, we called out pumpkins, mums, hay bales, grass clippings, which are Class C
Yeah.
recyclable material, aren't allowed, right? And we also called out that if the farm gets hit with litter or those types of things, we get fined. Right? I don't know if fined is the right word, but we get dinged.
and it's also a safety consideration, because the more leaves and other stuff that's in our brush staging area, we run the risk of fires. You know, because those organics can sit all summer, they get hot, there's kids playing there, or they have, you know, spontaneous combustion. After Sandy, we had fires there. But we have to kind of make sure we're looking at the safety aspect as we collect the debris that's coming off the streets.
then, you know, just to move things along, I would ask that the Brush and Leaf Committee take up the subject of vegetative waste, which has become an outlier, right? We're not removing it. But our residents are still, they still have it. They take care of their homes. They have their lovely front porches. These are a normal part of life in Fairhaven.
Yeah.
And, I don't know what the answer is, but I think if there is at least a conversation of Brush and Leaf and vegetative waste,
Yeah,
maybe something could come up.
100%. We spend a lot of time talking
That
about
stuff
gardening.
can go in the garbage can or not?
Yes.
Fresh my memory.
But there's no room for your garbage if you put all your vegetative waste.
The guidance that we received was that vegetative and yard waste goes in the garbage.
We're talking about in the fall, right? Primarily, you're saying pumpkins, hay bales.
Anytime.
Well, spring too, you do.
In the summer, it's probably a little easier because you get the 2-day-a-week garbage pickup, but in the fall, it reverts back to the one.
Anybody who has a garden, like a vegetable garden, would have waste both in the spring, if they didn't get it all out in the fall, if they have specific vegetables or things that they might have harvested for Thanksgiving, like Brussels sprouts or cauliflower or something, that those vegetables are something they need to dispose of. If they miss the fall cleanup, then it's gonna go out or look to go out in the spring cleanup. Listen, and maybe that's when it happens. I really don't know. You guys are.
No, it's a good point.
weeds
We'll
on
take
this.
it back.
Sorry
Yeah.
to.
We'll take it back. We'll bring it up with BLC. We'll come back with Nick and Rich and we'll make sure that in the updated plan that it's addressed accordingly. So we'll bring it back there.
What happens to the
Not all.
vegetative waste?
A lot of it.
Yeah.
The vegetative waste of the community gardens,
It gets plowed under.
It just gets
It just gets
rototilled
rototilled
into.
to plowed under and just comes.
It's like a natural compost,
The
right?
natural
Yes, yeah.
composting procedure.
Okay.
So the same thing with in your home, if you have a garden, sometimes you would turn it over and let those vines and stuff just be kind of turned and covered and decompose naturally.
So some of that's good for
100%.
conversation, video and communicating.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Shade Tree Commission has actually put out some good stuff lately about. this.
Shade, environmental,
Yeah.
green, all of them, there's gonna be a big coordination effort, so.
We're gonna move along to public comment on agenda items only. This is only for agenda items. Please observe a 3-minute time limit. Please state your name and address for the record. Is there anyone in the public with a public comment agenda item only? No? Allison? Fine.
I'm considering that one to do that, but just gonna say, Drew, if you wanna have a table at another day about brush or anything else in educational, you're welcome.
We do have a table.
Bring a great
We do.
can
I
with
thought we
holes
had-
drilled in the bottom, or, I mean, I don't.
DPW would be happy to bring the Santa chair for you.
Thanks, no.
The spring airing of the Santa.
If Parks and Rec offers the dunk tank, I know you're in trouble then.
Right, no, I want the front loader there. I want to do the front loader, example.
Well, but I mean,
Put the claw out.
we're 20 over here, I mean, if you want a table and you wanna do an educational anything, we welcome, Borough Council.
Check,
Thank you.
27 April, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Allison?
Thanks, Nick.
No.
All right, we're gonna move along to approval of minutes, February 24th and March 10th, 2025, regular meetings, as well as the March 10th executive session. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul?
Yes.
Howie?
Yes.
Koch? Yes.
Affirmative.
Thank you. Old business hearing and adoption of ordinances, 2025-03. Let's skip something.
Did you do that?
Yeah, I did. I just saw three. Yep. Hearing adoption ordinance 2025-03, amend various sections, chapter 16, solid waste management of the Borough Code. Do I have a motion to open?
Motion open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Does anyone up here have anything on this?
I think it's a great idea to ask for IDs.
Yeah.
And I love that.
It's, again, kudos to Chris, man, like, we realized all these years that the language was in the ordinance, therefore, when chief or code enforcement go over, they can't enforce it.
Got it.
So as we look to overhaul the operational management, reopen the recycling center, this sets hours, all of that, so
Love it.
kudos to Chris, chief.
Is there anyone in the public who has a comment on 2025-03? No, Allison? Anyone online?
No.
Do I have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole? Yes. Howie?
Yes.
Koch? Yes.
Affirmative.
We have a facilities update.
Yeah, and in the spirit of brevity, Mayor, I don't have a PowerPoint. I just so you guys know, I do that for her. So I'm gonna hit some high levels here. If anybody has any questions on any of this, there's been a lot of movement and a lot of changes on the back end. Please feel free. So I'll start with the police department, the community center. We are going to hold a commemoration on the 6th of April at 9 a.m. with Reverend Smith. The commemoration is going to be to recognize the significance of the site. And we've asked Reverend to speak to it and to lift it up as he deems fit. We're targeting the police moving in 09 April. So the actual police moving from the old building into the new one. Obviously, Mayor, and I always bring it up, right? We harp on the comms, especially when it comes to the removal of the building, especially when it comes to the asbestos, all of that will be done in full accordance. And there'll be a tremendous amount of comms going out about it. Site work is in progress. You'll notice tonight on the consent agenda is to go out to bid for Fish Chapel, the parking lot. We're targeting completion of everything, police department, community center, Fish Chapel parking lot, all of it by the end of Q2, by the end of June. If we get earlier, great, but you always under deliver and under promise, over deliver, excuse me. You'll notice a handful of CORs. If anybody has any questions on them, just let me know. I'll hit the CORs from DPW more so. Moving on to DPW, from a building perspective, we're in the final punch list stage. So once the final punch list items are done, the building is officially complete. We're in the middle of, site work. We're moving towards plantings and the fence starting 15 April. And all the other site work before that, so, security cameras, apron, right, curbing. The stormwater infrastructure, they created a whole, I don't know what you call it, it's not a swill. What's the line of rock that prevents the water from
Roof wrap apron.
that,
I was about to say that.
yeah, so you got it. So we're full steam ahead on this. I wanna highlight Rich tonight. Specifically Rich, I'm calling him out. If you notice, there's 2 credits for CROs for the fuel tanks. Came in 60 grand under what we budgeted, the 60 grand that's less that we have to take out. We got the landscaping down, an additional $10,000 without impacting what we were looking to do. Another huge one. And just so everybody knows on the CRRs for the signage, we have a $15,000 allowance. So that 5 grand is part of that 15,000 that's already been allotted. It's not saying we need 5 grand more than the $15,000 we've allotted. And then just to hit Bicentennial Hall real quick, just so we're on the same page. So the 80 upgrades are near completion. The next phase is the paint and exterior work. As you know, our grant writer secured an $8,000 grant in painting. And so as we look to next steps, it'd be to get a historical architect. We have to focus on some maintenance, paints, there's some wood issues, etc. No programming would be involved, and we'd have to closely coordinate with the HPC and with Reverend and Fish Chapel, especially if we're gonna repaint it, and all of that. So just thank you, Chris, thank you, Chief, Rich, Nick, Babs has been involved, Nancy's been involved. It's the staff hasn't come together entirely.
We forgot someone over there too.
Allison, oh my God, I can't thank her enough. I probably drove her nuts last week. But I'm not trying to be funny, like this entire staff, governing body and the residents have pulled together these last 24 days and are giving the final sprint and attention and time that this deserves. So one, we finish it and we finish it on time and under budget, but more importantly, we take into account how fatigued everybody is and we don't forget them, right? So that's everything from my mayor.
So, the only thing I want to touch on real quick, first of all, thank you, great update. I want to give a special, thank you to Rich and Nick and your team. I know we delivered this message directly to the team, but I want to make sure it's on the record. You guys spent a considerable amount of time outside of your home in the concession stand. And I'm not sure the residents saw any change in the output of your departments. And I think that's a testament to the professionalism and hard work of the entire outfit. So I just want to recognize that and say thank you. And I also want to say, as it relates to the building, now that they're getting in there, I remember some passionate discussion up here. Should we build new? Should we, what was the name of the other type of building? A Butler building. We really spent the time to look at every single, possible approach to this issue. And ultimately, I actually remember someone basically saying to Drew, you can't do it. It can't be done. And look, it's been done. The building's phenomenal. For anyone that's, if you haven't seen it yet, it really came out. It is fantastic. So to the facilities committee, last year's facilities committee, the entire staff, really appreciate it. I think we're gonna go one step further because I'm gonna have the same type of passionate thank yous and discussion on the police department about a month from now, because I did get a little tour for the first time, and it's looking pretty sweet, Chief. So thank you very much. Doing great. And then we are going to move along now to new business.
I just want to make one comment, just having been co-chair with Drew this year. I mean, the extent to which you've managed these projects as if they're your own home. I mean, every single email, every single detail, I've just been in awe. Thank you for doing that on behalf of the town.
Tell it. New business, introduction of, it's gonna come in a little while. Go to the borough, is gonna come up soon. New business, introduction of ordinances 2025-04, index rate ordinance, COLA. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second,
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Affirmative.
Moving along, consent agenda, we're talking resolutions 2025-97 through 2025-120. Anyone want to separate anything here?
No, just a
First.
comment.
Comment on anything?
Yeah, just 118. This is purely proactive. If this doesn't work out from a timing perspective, we're not gonna do the auction, but we're just doing it proactively. Me, Chris and Chief all circled up on that. So just FYI.
And I have a comment on numbers 107, 119, and 120, and I think it's directed sort of at Carolyn, it's directed a little bit at Brian. I'm not looking to hold these up, and I know that obviously there's a huge cost involved, but I'm still just a little bit concerned about traffic without bollards or anything protecting the people eating at the location. So I don't know what the solution is, but I'm trying to keep that top of mind. If anyone has any ideas there, please let me know. I certainly want to offer this as a benefit to our residents, but I want to make sure they're safe as well.
And Allison, did the COVID era legislative, did it expire last year or does it expire this year?
Expire the December.
Okay,
heard that it's been
re-upped.
re-upped or extended.
Because Mayor, we talked about this last year, right? And we had to approve because there was state legislation that said we had to allow sidewalk cafes because of COVID. So I just want to highlight that.
We had
as well.
sidewalk permits prior to COVID.
We did, but we were coming back to the safety aspect of it, and we weren't in a position last year to say we have to do this X, Y, and Z because of the legislator. So I just want to highlight it.
I think what we said last year was we were thinking about putting in some sort of rule that gave a certain amount of time for businesses to implement, because we know that financially it's not easy either to have to, so again, I'd like to maybe revisit that conversation. Also, I'm not looking to hold this up, but I think it's something that we need to have some sort of plan for. You know,
Do you have evidence of any hazards or dangers that have occurred? We've had two
well, we
people
had
driving
two cars through the
one-
post office. You know, you look at,
sidewalk cafe.
you look at, well, there's tables outside at Over Easy.
Oh, we can.
Oh, I thought you meant at the post office.
There's a parking lot in front of Tavlo. I'm not as concerned about that because it's more protected. You have river roads right on top of Dos Banditos. Lupo's got a little protection with some planters and stuff like that. I don't know if they're weighted or not. I think about Red Bank. I think it's the Cluck U Chipotle strip center. They ended up putting in bollards because they kept on getting cars going through the fronts of, and listen, it's, you know, just one person, you know, having that issue, and we're gonna wish we went back and we had a plan. So again, I'm not looking to stop this, but I think in the coming days, if anyone has ideas on how we can address it, I'd appreciate if we could
Yeah,
put a plan together.
the other side of that coin, sorry, that's one thing, is to look at taming traffic. While bollards, as an example, or planters and those ideas are helpful sort of as a barrier between pedestrians and parking or poor drivers, which is, I think, really what we're talking about. There are some best practices out about driver awareness, and it's worth looking at. I'll maybe try to take that up. It has to do with pedestrianization and ensuring we're taking the traffic calming measures that we can do.
And maybe the chief and Rich have some ideas too. We could all
Yeah.
collaborate on something. You had some?
Do the police, once the permits are issued, do they check how the tables and chairs are oriented?
Well, yeah, you know, they send a sketch with it. Yeah, we go look. I mean, just kind of unofficially we look, but again, if those don't change from years past, it's gonna be the same. I'll know it's not.
Yeah, because like
Like
Tavlo
I
is
said,
down.
there's a couple of that, you know.
It's a
really
little
don't-
further off the road and it's uphill a little bit.
Fairway.
Yeah,
There's a couple that don't really worry me at all, and they're coming
Really?
too, but, you know, every time somebody's walking down the sidewalk, I think stuff that could happen for you. So I don't know what the answer is, because some of those parts are really tight to try to put bollards there or something. I don't really know what you can really do, other than, you know, a few off the top of my head, I won't mention that you can't really let them do it without, there's no way really, way to put a bollard there, so you gotta really just say you can't do it, so.
when are these permits due? Is there-
April 1st to December 1st.
Because, you know, for example, over EZ, do they apply
They're
for?
private property. And that was part of their site.
It's private property?
What
Yeah,
about,
that metro commercial.
what about Fairwinds?
Fairwinds has one. He submitted it too late. It'll be on the next agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
And,
cause they're on the sidewalk, that's why.
right,
Yeah, the other ones are on the sidewalk, and some of them that are on the sidewalk probably concern me more, but there's no real way
yeah,
to.
but like over EZ and the post office, I mean, the post office has been hit twice.
I agree.
That's,
Who
yeah,
screwed you with part of their site plan? They're not even.
Yeah.
Grandfathered in. They're an easy target, unfortunately.
And I think
I mean, we use the sidewalks just to frame it, I mean, all the sidewalks are for pedestrians, whether you're standing in conversation, walking, seated, on a bike if you're a kid, so. I don't know that you're more of a target if you're eating a sandwich.
you're stationary though, that gives you a longer time to react.
I'm urging a little bit of trying to temper the conversation a little, so we don't, I would say, we don't want to take it out on the businesses.
Oh, no, not at all, fully
They're
support, we're
really
just
not in a position to control a driver's behavior.
100%.
Okay.
But this is just taking the safety, right, like, and just looking at it from that perspective.
Well, and whose burden is that? That's.
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion to
Chief.
approve?
Motion to approve, what do I say, 2597, 101 through 120, does that work?
Correct.
Second,
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul,
Yes.
Colleen,
Yes.
Hutch,
yes.
Rivera.
Affirmative.
Thank you. Department reports, February 2025, tax collector, police department, municipal court. Does anyone have a motion with a thank you?
Motion, thank you.
Oh, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Drew is opposed to this one.
Two thank yous.
Oh, nice.
We are now at the good of the borough portion. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please observe a time limit of 3 minutes.
Hi, everybody, it's Katie Persora, 126 Lexington, and obviously, no surprise, 2 meetings ago, I asked about what would be done for the commemoration of the history of the police station, which also was obviously part of this school. And I'm pleased to hear that on Sunday morning, on the 9th, on the 6th,
At 9.
at 9 o'clock, yes. And so 2 things. One is that the announcement is very timely because over the weekend, as Drew knows, I spent an afternoon with a 107-year-old Mrs. Edith Blake. Anytime she wants to talk, we run. She's a resource. And she shared some more great stories of what it was like to be a student in that school. And one story that she told that I hadn't heard before was that the reason she was so sad when she went there in second and first grade, her parents, she was in the Red Bank school system. And the family moved to the house that is where the Broward Williams park is. That's where they spent her childhood. And she said, I didn't like it because in Red Bank, the schools were all integrated. And now I was in an all black school and things just felt differently. She just told about that emotional impact. And I just thought about like what it's like even in how today parents are so worried about which class their kids will be in, which teacher will they have in first grade. And now I'm thinking about what it was like, back then. So anyway, I was thinking about her all day, so this is very often. I just have a logistical question. We're 2 weeks away from that roughly. Is there gonna be a Betty Ann movie type flyer?
Yeah, I'm
I'd
working,
like to start promoting that, and I don't know if you already have some artwork or graphics or something.
yeah, so tomorrow we'll follow up with Reverend Smith, let
Yep.
him know, and then I'm working closely with DJ. So we'll work with DJ, work with Babs, we'll get the communication out, if you need specific stuff, whatever you want, just let us know.
Yeah.
Because, so what will happen is, so the mayor, it'll be like a 30-second opening, and what we told the Reverend is, like, Reverend, we want you to take point on the entire kind of commemoration, so to speak, he has his whole network that he wants to reach out to, so if you need anything, just let me, Chris, DJ, Babs know.
Right, and I just one suggestion that I had, we had an aha about a week ago, it's the other group that spent time there are the police officers.
Mhm.
So they have their own, maybe sentimental, maybe not, but, and Darrell Breckenridge, as you know, was very interested in what was going to happen. So I don't know if he would be willing to also be a speaker as a representative of his mom, who was at the school. and he'd be the next chief, like that kind of thing, but it might be helpful to have a.
Well, I
close
think that, I am going to invite everybody that work there, but that's.
No,
Well,
that's what I meant.
we discussed it. I'm gonna let Reverend Smith make that call,
Okay,
right?
so he owns the agenda.
He owns the agenda. It's his decision, right? I wanna keep the significance. We wanna keep the significance to like the site and that. So everybody can come. We're gonna extend it to the police. We're gonna extend it to all the different committees and commissions.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Once I get some verbiage, I'll promote it in our.
Thank you for that, because it's another good touch point. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Anyone else with a good of the borough in the public? No, Allison?
No one.
Great, moving
Oh,
along.
right, go to the borough. Oh, okay, I lost track of the agenda, sorry. So two things, actually. One, I wanted to recognize Diana and DJ. And if Councilwoman Diacelli was here, she would be able to add to this, but in the course of the conversation about maps, they had developed a map that is gonna highlight our parks, and it'll be a live clip. So when you go to the landmark of any in particular park, you'll be able to pop up information about the park, the programs that happen there, and some pictures. It's not what we initially talked about, but it turned out so cool that they're gonna continue to develop it and put it up on the website. I just wanted to share that here. And the second group of the borough is, I was looking through small resources I have from my downtown revitalization days, and I came across something what's called a vacancy tax. And this is a very unique tool, but it's a piece of legislation that could possibly be useful in dealing with certain intractable issues we have in Fairhaven. It provides our borough officials with another tool to address compliance. So the unique thing about this, and again, it's preliminary, I'm really raising it here just to make the governing body aware. And if this is of interest, we can talk with our attorney and sort of run this to the ground and bring it back to council in the form of a white paper or one pager or something, so that there's some nuts and bolts around it. But it could give us, it could be the kind of tool we need to address absentee property owners who are underutilizing their properties. So are they in fact trying to lease it, trying to rent it? There are quantifiable ways we could measure this and work this into an ordinance. So
And
anyway.
I've worked on that in the past,
You
so
have.
I could certainly be of assistance.
Well, that would be great. So really, if you're interested and you like this idea, it's just want to
It'd
work.
be for abandoned and vacant properties, it's to
Correct.
look at the people that are either landlords or people that own, commercial space here that don't utilize their space at all. It's something to force their hand.
How do you
How do you prove
their
that?
space? Yeah. So there's.
There's mechanisms.
Yeah.
If I may,
That's why I want to come back.
shouldn't we workshop it, right? So like everybody's on
Well, I don't think
board.
we're ready to workshop it because we need to kind of run it to the ground first and bring you guys some information.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I think a workshop and an engagement, right, with whoever's on land use and all of that coordination. is
Yeah,
really, really
yeah.
Important.
Yeah, I mean, certainly I want to loop Brian in. I know he's having a fabulous time on his safari right now. Nothing's gonna happen that fast, but
You
I
piqued
want
my
to.
curiosity.
Yes, there are in fact measurable ways to, so with that said, a little more
Okay.
information coming your way.
Okay. I don't think we have executive session. do we?
No.
Wow.
I just have two things real quick to the borough.
Uh-huh.
I know. Two things, just wanted to announce real quick, because a lot of people didn't see it when it was first out. Recreation survey is still online up through March 31st, so if you didn't get a chance, fill it out. Just trying to get input for the residents, what they'd like to see the future of our recreation program. It comes down on April 1st, and DJ Breckenridge is going to do a report of what the findings were to the council once it comes down. So we'll have a report on that. Second, April 1st, thank you to the mayor and council, April 1st, our new code enforcement officer and deputy zoning officer will be starting. And she'll be here, so we'll make sure she can pick up on a lot of the quality of life issues with brush and all that. So she'll be working on that as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Yep, that's it.
Do I have a motion to adjourn at
Motion to adjourn.
At 9:04 p.m.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, aye.
Anyone opposed? Good night, Perry.
Get through that.
I don't know.
I'm not, it's one of the most efficient meetings.
Yeah.